Good morning, and thank you for listening to discussions here. Just waking up off the backside of a reverse 24 shift here. Wasn't going to do the first half. Felt sorry. The place where I work at, they've been really short-handed, and people left, people moved on, and they got some new hires they're working on. And I don't think, not really medics. We got some people out that are on for some injuries. So started back nursing school this past week, and so I left the first week open as far as meeting our instructors, kind of getting the schedule down, what's going on. It's a hybrid, so of course it's a transition from LPN to RN, so it's mostly, not mostly, but your classwork is at home, and you have to keep a schedule. And so every Thursdays you meet for lab. So I was kind of giving myself, this is going to be a free week as far as getting used to what's going on. I get a little, I get spooled up when assignments are due, and I'm trying to want to learn, but also want to get things turned in, not at that right at the deadline. So I got ahead, got some things turned in. I had a shift already lined up to work. We only have a 12-hour truck and for one of our trucks, and I was going to do that on a Friday. But I was asked if I can come in on a Thursday night and do some stuff. Well, work a second half at headquarters, and usually you're going to stay busy. I mean, you not having a lot of calls, that's not going to happen. You won't get much sleep. But my anxiety of not working all week kind of got a hold of me, so I said, you know what, I'll go ahead and do it. I had things turned in. And I tell you, nothing special, but just up and down all night, BS calls. And except for the last one, we did have a confirmed stroke and rolled it over the road, didn't have to fly them out. And so we got them there in a good, timely manner. That was good. But I was just really rolling on just maybe 3 hours of not good sleep that night. And then I tell you, we rolled the next day, and I wasn't supposed to have a partner. So someone filled in the second half with me on the truck, had a new hire, which we're going to be talking about that, which she's been here for, I think, for a little bit. And but I tell you, we ran hard. Not just us, but headquarters trucks did during the daytime, because when they first out, we're second out behind them. And I don't think we didn't really see our station for two times, maybe that. But the blessing was we got to roll out back into one of our old trucks that has the stretcher lift in it, and that will make and break your shift all day long. And so, but anyway, came home last night and just exhausted. So, but that's it. What are you going to do? You got to make a paycheck. So, what are we going to talk about this morning? So, anyway, this new hire that we have, and it was kind of a unscheduled. I think the scheduler, however, I can't. When they bring people in, as far as training wise, I said, she can ride with me, because the station I'm going to be at is going to be her station. She's going to be on the 12-hour truck. So we loaded up and just started talking and such, and been there for a little bit, for maybe a couple of months, I'm guessing. And so I'm kind of feeling out what they gone over and such, because where we're at, we don't really have. I think we got some not the best training documentation as far as going over stuff. Where the places where I've been at, where there is documentation, you get stuff checked off, and then you have to go over that. And so here's kind of like, to be honest with you, willy-nilly. But this person has some experience in 911 and on the truck, and so we had a good shift. We ran hard, but I will say, I don't think there was been patience with letting this person drive. These are big trucks. I understand if we're not used to it, but you know what? Sometimes you got to throw people in. You got to be patient with them, and so that's what I want to talk about. How do you deal with new people? How do you deal with new trainees when you get them in and such? I kind of came from the tail end. I worked with some old medics when I got into EMS, and it used to be, I can equivalent. I can't even talk this morning. I can compare it with when I was, in the Coast Guard. I was kind of in the tail end of that. We called it the old guard, where we still had, I'll say it, we still had hazing, behind closed doors. We didn't beat no one up or make them drink stuff, but we put the pressure to them, and I think it made me to a good worker, and a lot of it was all in good fun and that nature. And when I got into EMS, back in '08, I didn't have that, but I had it to where here's your check off. We're going to go over it once. Then after that, when I came in, when I worked with some of these older medics who's been in this for quite a while, you know what? I did the stuff. I did the check off. I was the grunt of that truck. Can't do that today. That is not happening today. It is a different mentality. I think I'm not saying that agree that we have to, be mean or say, hey, take this check off, but I'm noticing with people who has come into EMS, and I'm a firm believer really in any job, is that your partner will be only as good as you are, just below your standard. So, and I'm sitting here and we were talking with this new person. We grabbed the check off, and I mean, to me, what's the most important of the truck? There's a lot, everyone has their. Mine is this: do we have oxygen? Do we have fuel? Okay, that takes 5 seconds to check. Then comes our jump bag, and our jump bag is heavy and it's compacted and it's got everything in it, and you can't put no more in it. But you could take that bag into anywhere and run a complete call if needed. So to me, that blue bag is important, and I will say probably over 95% the bag never gets officially checked off with the checkoff sheet in front of you. Even though we may know what's in there, I'm going to be honest with you, I could open it up, scan it, put hands on without the sheet saying, okay, we're good to go, but there's no documentation. I would say that is a very important bag to have. The monitor is second, which the monitor only takes about 1 minute to really look it over to make sure that all your stuff is in there. We don't carry a lot in there, but it is important to have all your stuff in there. And I would say probably third, we have a small trauma bag, and I like it. And I'll be honest with you, I get turned around that little bag, where we keep the 4x4s. We got like 5 different compartments in there, and I fumble around when I don't put hands on. So enough ranting on that. So I said, well, you know what, let's go ahead. I said, your job today is going to be, you're going to grab a checkoff sheet, you're going to grab the blue bag, and I'll look over the rest of the inside of the truck there. I said, any questions, ask me. And so it was real informative. And so it got me to sit and watch this person go through the bag. Hard worker, and was going through, and I can tell that this person has not been trained, not even trained. I'll say trained. I don't think they've really been trained to check off the truck every time when they come to work. So I was just started asking some questions and such, and then we get behind and say, well, how about your driving? You get to drive a lot. And he goes, well, no, some, but I think people think I drive slow, and not being mean, and it's understandable. Like I said, it's a lot to take in driving these big trucks. And so I'm like, oh, okay, in which I can see that. And I know there's people I work with that has no patience for new people, and they just take over. They want to be alpha and this and that, and that's just my opinion. So with that, I said, okay, well, you know what? You're going to drive all day. We're going to let you drive. And so we did. When we drove and gave gave advice and such, and by the end of the day, it was good. We had a good shift. Tired. Cannot believe we got off on time. And so, with all that being said, when I was coming home and was just kind of thinking about the day, is, when you have new people and everybody's different. All new people are different. Some's got strength in some areas and some don't. And I want to say probably the biggest thing is driving, is having, you got to have patience with people who drive. They're supposed to offer this course of I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head. I did it once back in my old county. When you drive through cones, actually I've done it twice, and you drive through cones, speed up, brake fast, do this, do that. You're supposed to be going through things like that, and there are some areas that offer that classes. I can't think off the top of my name what it is. And so, but it does offer good experience. And I mean, it's an all day class, I believe, maybe a 2 day class. I can't remember, but it's worth going to for new people. But a lot of times, I'm just seeing that there's just people out there who should not be trainers, and that's everywhere. But if you are a preceptor, trainer, FTO, whatever you want to call it, you know what? You got to have patience. Have patience with that new person. And if you don't, then you're just setting them up, for failure. And just remember back, and I'm speaking from experience right now, and I shared that, with this person. This is, right now, yet again, I'm working 3 part-time jobs, and my other new one is actually an LPN job working at the detention center for the county here. And per se, not physically hard, but mentally, just a lot of paperwork and a lot of computer work, print out. There's a lot of redundancy of what you do on the computer. They go back to old school. Everything's in 3-ring binders. And so it feels like that. I take good notes. I got my notebook, but it seems every time when I come back, I feel like I'm starting back over learning the same stuff until I get going, and then I start to remember things. And there's always new things to be picked up and to be learned also. And so I know what it is to be a new person. And I've had good trainers and so far. And there's some things I don't care for doing. There's some things that I do like to do while there. But, I need the job. I can't beat the 8-hour shifts there. And it's going to work good with my school. But I just need to buckle down and kind of learn it. But what I'm saying is I understand what it is to be the new person again. And so I've always liked always calling them adjunct trainers. I've always liked to be the hands-on instructor of stuff, more not the book curriculum of long-term like classroom teachers. That's not my strong point, but I think my strong point is the hands-on stuff. So I understand what it is being new, and I, circle back around to relay this back to this person. So if you are an FTO, you're a trainer, and you really just have that patience in working with them and show some accountability with the other ones. Some people, who doesn't like to come in, flap your ass on a chair and binge watch Netflix? Yeah, we all like to do that, and that is warranted to be done when all the work is done. And so with that being said, you know what? You need to work with that person, train them. You set the standard. You need to be trained. You need to show them. And if your service don't have a structured FTO program, or they just let anyone out there just do it, well, you know what? Shame on your service. If you don't have a book that checks off from top to bottom, this is what they need to be done, well, shame on that service. I always say everything rises and falls on leadership. And so, but if you don't have that, and you're going to have someone that's going to be your person to train, you know what, maybe make your own up and make sure that they follow, to that standard right there. So with that being said, I'm done ranting. I got to open my programs. It's Saturday morning. I got to get some things done. I don't want to. So I'm going to be doing some classes today, and then going back tomorrow for a 24, then hitting the books again for next week. So with all that being said, thank you for listening, and y'all have a good weekend.